From time to time this summer, we'll be heading off on a Sunday morning getaway. Allen Pizzey starts us off with a no-frills visit to a no-nonsense countryside village in Italy.
Beautiful though this may be, picturesque does not offset poverty. Across the rugged mountains known as the Abruzzi, hundreds of small villages have been abandoned. Those that remain, like Santo Stefano di Sassanio, draw few tourists seeking the delights of chefs who still make pasta dishes by hand, and small-run family shops redolent with the smells of locally made products. Assunta Rusciocelli will happily tell you where everything she sells comes from and how to serve it. But her family is one of the last to eke out a living here. If you go to Toronto, you will find Santo Stefano, Assunta says. After the Second World War, everyone went to Canada. But a strange man with an even stranger vision is slowly bringing life back here. Daniele Kilgren was lost on a motorbike trip when he rode into Santo Stefano a decade ago.
I have few money, not much, but few money, and I decide to invest whatever I have in these ideas.
His idea was to create a hotel that had nothing you might normally expect. It's called an albergo diffuso, which translates literally as a spread-out hotel. Instead of rooms with a view, guests stay in houses once occupied by Italian families, restored as closely as possible to their original state.
The only thing we did is the heating system below the floor, so it's the same floor it was for probably centuries.
The other exception had to be the bathrooms. In olden times, the facilities were at best a metal tub and a chamber pot under the bed, but there are limits to what even authenticity seekers will bear. So the ones squeezed into alcoves adjacent to the rooms are modern, but that's as good as facilities get.
We don't give a lot of services, like we don't give a television, we don't give the fridge. What we give a stronger emotion, a strong emotional experience that in any way, shape or form that we could, it's very authentic.
There are no phones or internet connections. Beds are hair mattresses on boards with sheets that may be up to 100 years old. And what isn't old looks and feels that way.
It's always questionable what's the real meaning of authentic, but we try to do all we could.
In the 1600s, this village was an integral part of the regional wool trade, home to more than 3,000 people. A wool room has been restored along with the looms. It takes Assunta Perilli a little over 3 weeks to make a cover for a double bed. Her two grandmothers taught Assunta how to set up and run the rustic but complex machinery, which has roots deep in village history. But as the trade died, people began to emigrate, mainly to North America, and today fewer than 70 residents are left. This kind of tourism may be the only way to preserve what remains of their culture. Not everyone welcomed the idea, but the restoration, like this oak beam being sanded down to rebuild a staircase, has brought work where there was none.
It has been a very good economical return for everybody, not just for me, for everybody.
Bertrand and Ellen Spencer arrived here from San Francisco before Daniele did and bought a house for the same reasons tourists pay five-star prices for few amenities, to experience real Italy. So far, they say, so good.
The fact that he is attuned to keeping it the way it was, in pristine condition as much as possible, I think is admirable.
One thing that has not changed is that few people lock their doors. The hotel hands out 6-inch long iron keys, but manager Giovanni Pacifico says security is not an issue, even if some guests find that hard to grasp.
The Americans, they are closing all the time the doors. All the time.
Trying to keep things as they were in order to bring in tourists is, of course, a contradiction in terms, even for someone who cheerfully claims the risk of going bankrupt matters less than trying to save what he calls the patrimony of his country.
Italy has changed so much in the last 30 years, has lost identity. So now this marginal place that no one cared before, today could be the real keeper of the identity of this nation.
And if that's too grand a vision, it might at least give those willing to pay for it a sense of what villagers like 95-year-old Marietta have lived.